Hello, and welcome to the Talking Crit podcast. We have our normal host, Bad Mike from North Texas RPG Con, myself, Eric Tenkar, and our special guest of Benchlydale Academy, Tim Connoly. Tim, welcome. Of course, I spelled your name Tin on the on
yes,
everything.
You did. That was very cute.
And of
Thank
course, and that's because whenever I would type out Tim Shorts, it was always Time Short. So I made sure I didn't put an E at the end. I just couldn't apparently get the other letters right.
Sure, you did.
And a text and walk into a bar. Only troubles will be had. Only troubles. So,
you know that you said that. It's odd because a lot of my good friends over the past few decades are New Yorkers, and that's because I figure that of all the states in the United States, Texans and New Yorkers have the most braggadocio. I mean, I had a friend who came from England, and he said one thing I really like about the United States is that you really like your state. I mean, Texans are really into their state. I said, well, that's only in the case of Texans and New Yorkers. Everybody else bitches all the time. But Texans and New Yorkers, we do. We go nuts about our state. He goes, yeah, that's really cool because, in England where I'm from, everybody hates their city or they hate where they're from. But you just are really into being Texan. I was like, well, meet a New Yorker sometime because they're really into being New Yorkers also. So,
which is strange because we'll bitch about New York. I mean,
well, it's okay if you bitch about your own state,
Yeah, but we are certainly proud to be in New York. It's like a badge of honor. I grew up in New York, and all I got was years of misery, but here we are. So normally, one of the first topics of the week would be the whole thing of what did Jesus do, or what would Jesus do. Usually for us, it was what would Wizards of the Coast have done in the past week? What is their latest fuck up? And to be honest, apparently maybe the Thanksgiving holiday kept them nice and quiet, kept the courts closed, because they've been good enough to get lawsuits going in the midst of COVID. So that takes a very special company to do that. And of course, the format for this is pretty much a hex crawl, so we don't really come in with a preordained set of things that we need to touch upon. But Tim is our special guest. And as I mentioned right before we came into this podcast, Tim holds special recognition for me of being the individual that brought me back to face-to-face gaming that wasn't at a convention, that wasn't pickup gaming, that was returning gaming. And I'll tell you the truth, it scared the hell out of me when you reached out to me about coming out to Long Island to join the established Benchlydale group.
Why is that?
Why is that? Well, again, besides the fact that I hadn't gained face-to-face, excluding cons, since 1997. So we're talking about 20 years when you reached out.
Yeah.
It was a little nerve-wracking.
But it was cool, though.
Oh, it was very cool. It was an amazing group of bizarre individuals, and I say that in the nicest way. These are people I would have been very happy to have hung out in a bar with and shared drinks with. And some, didn't we have somebody who drove from New Jersey every day to go out to Long Island? Well, every other week.
Indeed. That was my buddy Tom McTague, who I had begun playing D&D with in 1981, and he had stayed with me through all these years, and it's been great to see some of the older folks still come out, even from New Jersey.
Yeah, I I used to bitch and complain. I'm coming from Queens, and for me, it was an hour and a half drive because if you don't live in New York, Long Island Expressway, Northern Parkway is just. I know it's not as bad as I guess the highways in LA, but
it's bad though.
It's fucking miserable if you're driving east in the rush hour, and it was always worth the trip. So I do miss our games.
Thank you. It was fun having you with us.
Well, I got to play a cleric, which I never really played as a player much in AD&D 1E. I was always the GM, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Or I guess I was always the bride, never the bridesmaid. But it was nice to be on the other side of the screen.
It is nice. And we got a chance to enjoy the classic TSR WG5 adventure module, Morden Caden's Fantastic Adventure.
I'll be honest with you, I never really was concerned of what adventure we were playing because I figured if I was concerned about what it was, I'd have to go back and read it because they're all in my collection. So it's like I don't even want. I know it's one of the World of Greyhawk adventures. I could probably figure out which one. I don't. It's like suspending disbelief while watching a cop movie. I didn't want to get too deep into it because then I'd be like,
that was like Rob Coots. Rob Coots was a great idea, man, a great writer when he could be bothered to actually finish stuff. And so that's his Mar Castle, and it's actually I've run that many times. I love that adventure.
God, I love that adventure, and I love all the extra stuff that Rob did later on, where you can find bits and pieces to extend it even further, such as the Chambers of Antiquities, which didn't exist in the original module.
He did some. There's Dungeon Magazine. Dungeon Magazine. He did some extra adventures over the years, and I think they were for 3.0, but they're easily converted to editions. So,
very simply, some people get turned off by the prospect of having to convert from newer to older, but it's really not hard.
No. We discussed this before because we were talking about Pathfinder. There's a Pathfinder 1E Humble Bundle up, and I mean it's ridiculous. It's a Monster Humble Bundle. $18 gets you 29 books, and would I want to convert it to 5e? No, because that I'm sure requires a lot of work. But I mean, I've taken DCC and 5e stuff and converted on the fly the Swords and Wizardry. There's no reason why you can't take anything that's Pathfinder. Take your virtual pen and cross out 95% of the stat block, and what you are left with is OSR. And just, we talk about crunch and flush. Crunch and fluff. Geez. Fluff, I mean, the fluff, you use that flavor text, man. That's what it's there for. Besides, that's what the OSR thrives on. When we were gaming out in Long Island, it was the role play, the stuff that wasn't the books themselves, but what we were adding to them that made the game so special. So,
yeah, I do like the aspect of role play, and we've taken it a step further these days at Benchlydale Academy, where we now invite special guests in from time to time just to role play as NPCs. So we're not going to roll up characters for you and spend all this time doing that. Just come and be this character, know a little bit about them and why they're there, and if it's based on Mr. Cotter from Welcome Back Cotter, or if it's based on Barbarino from the same show, okay, fine. You'll get a little paragraph on what he's all about, and then you'll just come on in and role play him when you are called upon. We pride ourselves at the Academy of sharpening the acumen of players' improvisational spontaneity skills.
Okay, I would have gone for Horseshack myself. Mr. Cotter!
See, now that would be a great NPC. So if you're free on Sunday, December 20th, and you want to come role play as the 1E equivalent of Horseshack, you let me know.
Oh, jeez. That's evil, man. Don't tempt me, man, because, that's
okay. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Well, I don't know if it'll get me in trouble necessarily.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
So before we get too far in this, now I was actually made aware of Benchlydale and Beyond back when you first started it, Tim, and I always thought it was just the coolest idea, because now correct me when I'm wrong, when I go off and I'm not right here, but Benchlydale is basically, it's a setting that has everything in it, like basically any first edition module or anything you want to put in it is in that setting. So if you want to do the Giants, there's a place you can. The Giants series is there. If you want to go to Saltmarsh, a UK one is over here. If you want to do, you do second edition stuff too, right? So I mean, would Undermountain be somewhere on there too? So basically, anything that can be put in there is in there, and you could travel there, and basically that way every classic AD&D models there, but you get to run it in your own personal, world.
That's right. Every classic AD&D module except for the A series, the Slavers series.
No Slaver series. Is that?
The Slavers series is being saved for a very special map, and Eric has seen what the maps look like.
Yes.
A very special map number 14. We have 14 maps that when you interconnect them, it creates more than 180,000 square miles of adventure area where you can go and explore more than 100 classic TSR and Judges Guild and Rolaids and other third-party publishers from the 1970s, from 1977 really, onwards to 1989. So from 77 to 89, you have the classic first edition AD&D years, right?
Right.
Everything in that time frame, if you could think of it, it's probably in the Benchlydale and Beyond sandbox. Luke Gygax and I co-created that, and then Keith Baker was brought in as a co-creator too, which was a lot of fun. We were coming up with all sorts of ideas. Okay, let's put the Tomb of Horrors over here. Okay, let's put Thieves of Fortress Badabasca over here. Let's put Dark Towers over here. You know. Also, another thing about Judges Guild, City State of the Invincible Overlord is not in the sandbox either. So that is omitted, and the A series, the Slaver series from TSR, are the biggest, most glaring omissions from Benchlydale and Beyond, and for no other reason than saving them for a special map number 14 that I'm drawing. And so we finally will usher them in, and at last the circle will be complete.
Well, I always thought it was a great idea because that's what I did with my own campaign world. Is I liked running classic adventures, but I know this is heresy, but I really was never that much into the world of Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms.
That's not heresy.
They were interesting. I liked them, but I liked my own world a lot more. And I had a concept of my own world, and what I would try to do is bend these modules to my own concept. And my concept is it's a world of islands, basically. There's a lot of ocean, a lot of travel. There was a cataclysm. Yeah, or a lot of archipelagos, stuff like that. And trade, there's a lot of isolated societies, but there's one big kingdom that does a lot of exploring. So I would fit these modules into my campaign world. I mean, it's fun to run them in Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms, but it's also a challenge to put it in your own campaign world. So when you first came out with this, I thought, that's what I've been doing for years, and that is the coolest thing ever. I always thought that's a great idea, because if somebody, I ran the Giant series in that world once. It was great. We had a wonderful time. As a matter of fact, we did T1 through 4 Temple of
very nice.
Elemental Evil, but we did it as an island hopping. Like Hamlet was on one island, and then they had to go to the temple, and then another island, then they went down below the temple, and that actually led into Night Below box set, which is a secondary box set. So I always did that, so I thought that's cool. I don't know why more people don't do that, because it just seems like such an interesting concept. Instead of using cut and dried campaign worlds, just use your own campaign world and make it make it your own. Make all these individual classic modules your own.
There's nothing stopping you unless you're trying to make a buck, which I'm not, and that sets me apart, I think, from a lot of other folks in the industry. I'm very underground, and in fact, another thing about Benchlydale Academy is it's very NSFW, and our adventures are NSFW. And every time a YouTube actual play video goes up of us, you always have to click, are you 18 or older? Yes, because that is how we roll here, and that's a turnoff for a lot of folks. I'll be honest with you. A lot of people are quick to not want to have anything to do with us, really, because of our NSFW nature. And but whatever, we're just being ourselves.
If they're watching this live stream or
well, you're adults, you're just being adults.
To the podcast, they know I got a potty mouth. Holy fuck!
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's what I say.
Yeah,
but you know how people are.
No, I know. But listen, at the same time, I remember how the games were out in Long Island, and to be honest with you, you walked in the door to our, and it's a good thing they kept us in a segregated room.
Yeah, good room.
We could close the door, but only people walking to the bathroom went past us. But because the games reminded me of actually the virtual games we used to roll on, play with on Roll20 with my regular Saturday night group, which were not safe for work. And if they were put out there on YouTube, might have jeopardized the employment of more than one individual, only because we were, I don't want to say acting immature, but we were letting our hair down, possibly our pants, and just having a grand old fucking time. And I really think that's the way it should be. There's something that you can't do at conventions, but you can do in certain group settings, especially when people. No, I'm not saying. I'm not comparing this to that convention game where you have to like. I know there's some convention game that's run by some people where you have to like, I don't know, like sign like a permission slip before you go in that you basically won't make any criminal or civil complaints against those that are running it, because apparently it is a way over the top sexualized thing. Yeah. But that's not it. I'm just saying that, if you were politically correct, you would be very offended by some of the game sessions I participate in. I'm not saying by me, just in general, because look to take offense, going to find offense in groups that let their inhibitions go and just act like they're goofing around with a bunch of friends, and that's something very special. I'll tell you the truth.
So I have a story here, because it's just I just like to tell old stories, and that's what I do is I ramble. But the first female that ever played in our campaign was the girlfriend of a friend, and it turned out he really wasn't into it too much. And he left, and she stayed and played with us for about 2 or 3 years. And she had an elven archer, or some kind of archer character. And we were always this is not like 1980, 81. So, and we've talked about this before, Eric. I mean, we didn't have a lot of girls. I know you had more girls. We didn't have a lot of girls play D&D, or even want to play D&D or interested. So we were always very respectful around here, and just kind of, when she would play in sessions, we'd kind of keep the language, PG, and try to make her uncomfortable. And so one session, I think we were playing the Slave Lords actually, and she was rolling, and she was like, miss 1, 3. I mean, everything was a miss. And she finally said, fuck. And she's like, oh, can I say that here? And we're like, oh, we're so glad you did, because we haven't been saying it for a while, because we didn't know if you were okay with that. She's like, oh no, I curse all the time. I've been not saying anything because I didn't want y'all to think anything bad about me. We're like, no, just let the fucks flow. If you roll a 1, you can fuck all over. You just say whatever. So that was fun, because we were just all, oh, she said fuck. Yes, we can do that. We can curse too. We can all cuss now. Everybody cuss.
See, I got in trouble for making a joke about oral sex at a game. I guess we were 18. No.
Task.
No. But I got in trouble, and I didn't know at the time. My friend's girlfriend, she used to come to the games a lot, and she'd play. I don't think she was really into it, but we took a break to go do a food run, and we left through the basement door. Come out. I was always the last. I'm the DM, so I'm always the last one out. Make sure everybody else is. And as I turn into the alleyway, slap! Right there. I've never been slapped before by a woman. I was like, what the hell was that for?
That's shocking.
You disgusting. I go, what? you watched. I went, I go, oh my God, at the SOD concert? That's what was going on? And then sorry, Dave, I just gave you up there. And Dave's just like, he didn't know. We're going, now I know. Oh, that's. I was like, I'll take a slap for that any day. Finding out information I should never have known. It was a joke in poor taste. Of course it was.
Did you say SOD concert?
I'm so shocked.
Yeah. You got the best way to get information you're not supposed to know. Jeez. But yeah, I guess we were not safe for work even back in my late teens.
Hey, listen. Frank Zappa once told me that, hey, well, it was in the 20th century when he said it, obviously. He said, hey, it's the 20th century, so whatever it takes to have a good time, let's get on with it, as long as it doesn't cause a murder. Thanks, Frank.
There you go.
That was all the advice I needed. And we do have fun.
That covers a lot of territory, too. That's awesome.
Words to live by.
Yes, indeed. Words to live by.
Yeah, try. I think I would have put that on a T-shirt. Charlie. I
Let
like
the
that.
fucks flow.
I forgot we actually said that. Let the fucks flow. And I wasn't me, unfortunately. I like to take credit for that. It was one of my friends said, "Let the fucks flow," because we were just so happy the girl cursed. Like, oh, we don't have to hold it any longer. Thank goodness.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
It's
Let
great.
the
It's like not having to hold in piss anymore. You finally get to
like,
pick up
oh.
piss.
Yeah, so then we're just like, of course, then we're showing off and cursing the whole rest of the session because we can now. It's awesome. Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. When you have a gaming group, and this even with our online group was steady for a number of years, and you bring somebody new into the group, you always have that vetting process, 2 or 3 sessions before it becomes, all right, so how far can I go with the off-color jokes before I get, and they're always game related. Nobody just comes out with it, but you always like, it's like, or can I say fuck without offending this person? It's like, oh geez. And then once you realize, all right, they're as disturbed as the rest of us. Good fit, and then everything goes back to normal. And
That's right. That's part of the vetting process.
Yeah.
Player chemistry is very important. There needs to be chemistry at the table, whether it's virtual or real.
Right, and I think a lot of it, you can't guarantee that at a convention. Conventions, by their very nature, are pickup games.
If there's a lot of chaos, you can't guarantee that.
But when it comes to your own game, whether it's virtual or face-to-face, but if it's a steady group of players, you want a steady group that doesn't have internal conflicts, that everybody is on the same page, and they're not going to be offended by whatever it is that the party everybody else likes to joke about, and I think that's important. I mean, I'll say this much, and I'm very happy by this. I have yet, whether it's at a convention or in a virtual tabletop group or even in face-to-face when I was playing out Long Island, been in a group that became politicalized. And I've heard horror stories of those that have. But I've just like the Taverns of Neutral Ground, that I certainly agree that politics exists. You can't say it doesn't. But people left their political, agenda is too strong a word, but they're strident political beliefs at the door, and understood that we're here to game and to share what we have in common. And I think that's very important for us to remember.
Yeah, that's all a lot of groups. The group I'm playing with now has 2 people from my original group, my brother and a friend of ours, and we're very, very. I mean, we're just really, really compatible with each other, and so, but we bring in other people, and so you're always kind of antsy. Like, well, we're referring to stuff that happened like 30 years ago, literally. We're talking about something happened. Oh God, remember when we did this and this, and you don't want to turn off other people, and you also don't want to say something inadvertently, because sometimes we say some politically incorrect things,
right,
that you understand what the meaning is and what the milieu. I mean, why that was being said. But because a lot of us were knuckleheads when we were kids. We were absolute. I'm a
knucklehead now, dude. What the fuck are you talking about?
And so we just have to be. We're telling past stories. Sometimes I'm kind of nervously looking around the table, like, that's a pretty much we're knucklehead story. I'm hoping that the people that are around the table that don't know as well are appreciating it and not saying, "Oh, these guys are absolute moronic idiots." But you don't know, and sometimes you just have to kind of seek it out slowly at first. You let a little bit of your inner person kind of ooze out, and then if they seem like they're compatible with that, then you let a little more out. And then by the time you're your 5th or 6th session, you're just like, boom, it's you're all pretty much on the same page. At least that's been my
it takes a while. I mean, it probably took me to my 3rd session out Long Island to finally realize I'm not the outsider. I can goof around and make some off colorist jokes, and the whole room either won't stare at me or ignore me, because those are the 2 options, right? Everybody either stares at you or everybody just goes, "I didn't hear that. Did you hear that? Hear what? That's what I thought. No, I didn't hear it either." And just goes. It's like, oh, geez.
And there's the 3rd option. They can applaud you.
Well, that is true. We got a lot of Benchlydale fans.
Hey,
dropping in.
Benchley folks.
Thank you, David. But by the way, I want to address something that John Enfield brought up. He said it's the next best thing to actually being in a room with a really good conversation going on. Well, John, just to let you know, we've gotten. I reached out to Angelia over at TotalCon. We are going to be doing Talk and Crit Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. That's
Whoa.
Mike and I. Yes, February 17th through the 20th, because the con's the 18th through the 21st. And we are going to be doing Talk and Crit with special guests. Maybe even bring back Tim. But we're gonna do something every night. So people who go to conventions to socialize, which to be honest, it's why I go. I think it's why Mike goes.
Yes, definitely.
You know, we're gonna try to replicate that virtually, and hopefully get some guests that you might go, oh, I would love to have seen. We haven't confirmed anybody yet, but just for example, I love to see and avoid, because he's scary as hell, Skeeter Green at convention.
Yes.
And maybe we can get Skeeter on. So these are things that we're working on. But once we got the okay from TotalCon, this is something that they'd love to see done. Now we're going to go and get some guests, and we're talking about doing this for other conventions that are having to be forced in a virtual or a virtual hybrid, where they are in person and virtual at the same time, because until COVID is beaten to hell, I will not be going to cons. I am now officially a high risk individual, and I figured I rolled some excellent saves 3 times this year. I don't need to put myself in a situation.
No.
So.
No, not with the year you've had. You've dodged so many bullets, it's ridiculous. You need to take a break. But yeah, that's one thing you and I had talked about, and I've talked to somebody in the industry who I won't name who it was because I didn't have permission to share the story, but they're a big name, and they're pretty much out on virtual cons. They said if there's virtual cons next year, that's probably it. Where I'm not going to go to anymore, because I know when you and I go to cons, Eric, our favorite time of the day is when we shut the booth down and we go in the bar and we're sitting there talking to people, because that's when you hear all the stories, you just hear all the great stuff. That's when you hear all the gossip and all the inside stuff. And every con I go to, I always hear a story from the old days of TSR that I'd never heard before. And I've told this one before, this probably in the last couple of shows, but last time I went to Gary Con, I was sitting there with Alan Hammock and Darlene, artist for TSR, and Alec Hammock, of course, author of Ghost Tower, and he's still in the industry also. And there were talk, blah, blah, and Darlene said, that's when you and I were dating, Alan. I was like, whoa, hold on. You dated each other? He's like, oh yeah, that's when I lived with Frank Menser. We had a bachelor pad. I'm like, wow, you live with Frank Menser? Okay, I didn't. So this is all new to me. So I'm like, okay, we got to tell me some stories here. So I got to hear 30 minutes of hilarious stories I can't share, and and it was just great, because I'm like, as many times I've been to conventions, I've never heard these tales before, and so that's what we're going to try to do. Eric and I, we're gonna try to just get people to talk about stuff and just tell us, just tell us some stories, man, because we're all tired of COVID. We're tired of not interacting with other people. Gaming online is fun, but it's just not the same. You log on, you game, then you log off, and you're like, okay, where's the time at the bar? Like you and I mean, where's the time when you get to go socialize at the bar and hang out? And it's just not the same. So I'm looking forward to this. And I have heard a lot of positive on this too from different people. So and here's
the thing though, Tim, since we're touching on that whole socialization aspect. The way you set up Benchlydale, because I haven't attended, I've seen the notifications. You have like tea time ahead of time, like basically you have a time for people to socialize and get together before the session kicks off. And
right, we call that virtual cocktail hour.
That's
customary.
And that's literally pure genius, because I'll say this with my old regular Roll20 group. It generally, if we were going to end this Saturday nights, we'd start at like 9:30. We'd run to 12:30, 1 o'clock. But you had to give us at least a half an hour to an hour of wind down time at the end, where we would socialize, just like we used to do playing out in Long Island. I mean, at least when the weather was warm enough that you could actually talk out in the parking lot,
Right.
because they didn't want you yapping away in the game store, because we were usually gaming to the witching hour there, and they didn't need us hanging around longer than we were going to. But we would, you had to unwind. You had to tell the non-gaming stories or catch up on other stuff. And I mean, Mike's saying,
why not put the horse before the cart, as it were?
I
and
think
enjoy
that's
some time beforehand,
right. And you're priming the pump, then you're getting everybody relaxed and getting to, especially
Right.
in a group that's a pickup group. That's really a great way to get people relaxed and set it up. I mean,
We love that.
I think it's literally pure genius. And I'll be honest, like Mike said, we like hanging out in the bars, but on top of that, I like working the table, because when I work the table and I sell stuff for Frog Eye Games, I know that I'm going to be meeting people. I'm going to be getting to talk to other gamers, and I like doing that. It's the energy, it's the food that I love as creative of any sort within this industry, is to get to meet the people that game. That's what we all do this for. I'm sure that's the reason why you have Benchlydale set up, because that energy is better than, I don't know, getting paid. It's something very special that it's hard to put into words.
You almost get a spiritual fix from it. Well, for me anyway, I think I do. I owe quite a bit of gratitude. I owe a debt of gratitude to first edition AD&D that I can never repay, because it rescued me from juvenile delinquency at a very young age. And it gave me something more constructive and positive to focus on than loitering or vandalism or any of the other stupid stuff that I would do when I was very young.
Yes. So
it helped to shape me. I owe the Boy Scouts of America a debt of gratitude too, and also the great teachers that I had at high school. I mean, there are so many things I could look back on and say, that was a real game changer for me and helped me to become the person who I am today, who is essentially overseeing 550 people in a virtual group, which is Benchlydale Academy. And I can't even believe we have that many people. When this started in March or April of this year, there were 25 of us, and now there's 550 of us. So now I don't know what that says about first edition AD&D, but it probably says something pretty good. People are willing to help us celebrate and commemorate this classic edition, and that's what it's about for us. Really.
I came into gaming with, and my mother was so thrilled that I was gaming and playing D&D. She'd make drinks for us, Kool-Aid, iced tea, make sandwiches. If they were going to be over for dinner, she'd make a stew or whatever. She always wanted to make sure that everybody was comfortable and happy, because she knew it was keeping us out of trouble. And I'm somebody, as a New Yorker, I had to go to the Poconos to get into trouble. But in my early teens, mid-teens, I lived in New York all my life. I was a cop for 20 years, never shot at. Twice in PA I was shot at, because we were getting into trouble. I'm not going to say what we did, but trespassing would probably be on the list.
Statute of limitations may still be active, so yeah.
I'm not so sure about that.
Maybe
it might be, but yeah, I'm just saying. Oh, and of course, Charlie is picking on the fact that I go through tin.
Hi, Charlie.
There you go. Sorry, Charlie.
So, I knew that was coming. You went for the low-hanging fruit, didn't you?
I had to, and of course, if there's any, well, I shouldn't say this. There probably aren't any younger listeners unless it's Mike Gross's, unless it's MG the Fourth listening.
If you're young, you need to go to bed right now. You don't need to be listening to Eric and I.
Yeah.
That's a
For all you listeners out there who are 30 years and under, please know that the reference Eric just made to "Sorry, Charlie" is from an old tuna fish commercial that used to air on television, and it was a brand called Starkist, which they still make today. Anyway,
when you have to explain the reference, it just kills the whole thing. Then it's dead.
Now we're going to be talking about "Don't Squeeze the Shaman."
No, let's don't do old commercials. I mean, it's gonna kill. You're gonna kill me, man.
We wouldn't want to do that to you.
I have something I want to ask Tim, and this is like because we just do a hex crawl here, and we're just all over the place, right? So I can just throw something out, right?
Please.
So Tim, I know I've read an interview of yours probably years ago. You have a connection to the music industry in Long Island, and you mentioned Frank Zappa as somebody you talked to and met. Why don't you wow us with some of the famous names in music? Because we're the same era. We're all the same era, all three of us. So we probably all know the same types of musicians. So why don't you just name drop some of the guys you hung out with that day that you might have met and had a beer with, or just
absolutely
hauling around
with? In 2006, I was a journalist for a nationally published and distributed music magazine called Inside Connection. And my job was gossip columnist. So I would get backstage passes for this one or that one. And one day I went to Jones Beach, and it was the summer of 2006, or maybe it was 2004. It might have been 2004. I'm backstage with Ray Manzarek and Robbie Krieger, and I'm hanging out with the both of them.
Half the doors. Okay, nice.
Yeah. The same night, I was also hanging out with Mark Stein from Vanilla Fudge and his drummer, Carmine Appice. And the surviving members of the Yardbirds were also there to perform that night. And you're going to like this too. Steppenwolf was there that night also, including John Kay on lead. All of this in one big old bill. It was billed as some sort of throwback 1960s kind of a bill, I suppose. But it was so great hanging out backstage with Ray Manzarek. All he wanted to talk about was crabs.
I'm assuming as in fishing crabs, not
right.
Social disease.
All right.
Right.
Yes.
Because where Ray is from in California, I'm guessing they don't really see crabs very much in the way of seafood there. It's just not really a Pacific Ocean thing like it is for us on the Atlantic. And the road crew had put out this wonderful spread, and I was backstage, so I was allowed to eat from the spread too. This incredible buffet style spread of seafood, and Ray was hanging out over near the sterno cans and the steam table trays that had the clams in them that had just been fresh caught from the water right off where the stage is near Jones Beach, where you can go and catch crabs. So he was eating crabs and he was so happy. He was like, "Come here, let's take a picture together." So I took a picture together with Ray, and I was asking him some questions about a book he had just published called A Poet in Exile, which was Ray Manzarek's big book about what really happened to Jim Morrison after 1971. When Jim had 6 or 8, I forget how many it was, different paternity suits pending against him. At the time, he faked his death in France. So if anybody had a reason to disappear, it was Jim. And Ray wrote a book about it. Ray wrote a book about this experience where one day he got a letter in the mail, a mysterious letter that came in the mail just signed with the letter J. It wasn't, full initials or a full name. So Ray was reading the letter, and then he looked at the postmark stamp from the Seychelles Islands in the Indian Ocean, and he's like, "I got to track this back because I have a strong suspicion I know who this might be." So not only did he track his way back to the post office that sent the letter to him in California, he flew to the Seychelles. He spent some time with Jim. Now, this would have been in the early 2000s, okay?
Okay.
He spent some time with Jim and his wife and their 3 or 4 children. And Jim had stacks and stacks of notebooks of poetry and song lyrics that he had been writing since he disappeared. And he said to Ray, "Ray, we're going to get the band back together. We're going to do this." I was asking Ray questions about the book because Ray never really went on public record after A Poet in Exile was published saying, yes, it's fact. Yes, it's fiction. I don't want to talk. He just was, I don't want to talk about it. He wanted this element of mystique to be
Kind of.
around the book.
If I Did It by OJ. Not saying I did, but if I did.
Well, it would be a similar situation. Yeah. Great book, great read. I highly recommend it. It's sad. I'll give you a spoiler. About 2/3 of the book is just Ray and Jim having conversations. So when you're reading the book, it's like you're reading a transcript of a conversation between Ray and Jim. It's great. And they talk about all sorts of stuff. And Jim sounds excited to want to get back together with Robbie and John and make music again. Now, at one point during the book, and this is the real sad part of the book, Jim's wife calls Ray off to the side and, says, Ray, Jim doesn't want to tell you this himself, but I have to tell you, Jim is dying. Jim's dying of cancer. And he doesn't want to talk about it. I know he doesn't look like it's happening, but it is happening. So, please don't get his hopes up too much about all this stuff. Just let it go, let it be. By the end of the book, Ray was flying back to California by himself and thinking about who he had just spent some time with after all these years of believing him to be dead, and the conversations that they had and talking about life and love and everything in between. And the book is so great. You really should read it, even though it gets so sad towards the end, because Ray just has to come to grips with the fact that he came so close to having Jim Morrison back in his life with Robbie and John. And then Jim's wife took it away from Ray, and that was the end of it. And it just pulls your heart out.
So he was perfectly. I mean, this is believable, right? Your listeners are like, I believe Jim Morrison. I mean, after talking to Ray and he's sitting there telling you that he met with Jim Morrison, you're not calling him a liar to his face or say like, well, that doesn't sound right, because you're thinking, well, if anybody would disappear, it'd be Jim Morrison because he was a wacky guy. And so, so this is all perfectly, you're talking to him, you're like, this makes sense. Does it all make sense to you?
It did. And then at one point during my conversation with Ray about this, Robbie Krieger comes walking by, and he's wearing these loud camouflage pants. They're not your typical Jungo camo with different shades of green and brown. This is like super loud, like a cross between what might be considered urban camo with different shades of gray. And then you have some splotches of neon bright orange. And I'm like, I'm looking at these pants on Robbie, and I said, Robbie, where can I get a pair of pants like that? And he says to me, oh, Ian got these for me. Now, when he talks about Ian, he's referring to Ian Anderson, former lead singer from The Cult, who replaced Jim on that tour.
Okay.
So both Robbie and Ray were playing in that band, but John, the drummer, didn't want any part of it. And he would not allow Robbie or Ray to call themselves The Doors. So what they had to do for that concert at Jones Beach, they had to change their band name. So they changed their band name to D, like Doors, 2, 1, like the numerals 2 and 1, and then the letter C, like Charlie. D21C. That was the name of the band that night, and it was supposed to stand for Doors of the 21st Century. That's what they were calling themselves. But by calling themselves D21C, they wouldn't get sued by John. And John didn't want to be a part of it because he felt like their legacy was ruined. What are you doing? You're milking this. It's a dead cow. Leave it alone. Respect the legacy. And I get it. John has a point. So that was cool. And then I was, after that, talking to Carmine Appice from Vanilla Fudge, and all he wanted to talk about was turquoise. He was wearing 12 turquoise rings.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, wow, Carmine, that's wild. He's like, yeah, man, I love turquoise. It's my favorite stone. I'm like, that's cool. Were you born in the month that turquoise is the birthstone for? And we were just talking, and he was telling me about the stories with Vanilla Fudge and Led Zeppelin in California at the hotel with the mud shark. And I'm like, man, you really want to tell me about this? 20 minutes later, I meet Mark Stein, who was the keyboard player for the Vanilla Fudge, and he was the one who allegedly held the mud shark during that episode, or held the Super 8 camera and filmed it at the time. It's really weird. Now, here I am. It's 2004, I think, and I'm like, I was born in 1970, so I missed out on a lot of that great stuff and a lot of
Right.
that great music when it happened at the time. But I was brought up with music. My parents had a great record collection from a lot of music from that time. My dad was really into Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones. My mom was really into the Doors and the Doobie Brothers. So I was getting hit by classic rock from all sides. I grew up on it and I loved it. I was never one of those kids who rebelled against the musical taste of my parents. I loved the musical taste of my parents, and it inspired me to branch out and find more music to like. And started to like some jazz, and I started to like some country. And as time went on, you just start to have an appreciation for everything. I could listen to classical music, no problem.
Right.
I could listen to R&B. I could listen to just about anything. And then I went into becoming a performing artist myself. And after having been a singer in professional bands in New York for more than 25 years, it gave me really all the confidence I need to continue DMing and whatnot. Stage fright is a problem for a lot of fledgling DMs, and I get it. I've been there. Stage fright is a problem for a lot of lead singers of bands, too. And I think after my first 1,000 hours of stage time, though, I started to lose something that I really miss. You lose the butterflies in the stomach. You don't feel them anymore. They're just gone. And you miss it. And you're so comfortable with being on stage and crowds of strangers and in between song banters and dealing with hecklers and making them feel like they're 2 inches tall. I mean, you live it. You live with women flashing their tits at you in drunken roadhouses and biker bars.
I have
all
I have,
DMs all
the
the time.
same, I have the same
I
problem.
have like James Bond flashing his at me.
Yeah, that's not the same thing, Eric. Sorry, that's no.
Yeah.
That's
James
quite
Bond
not
being-
the same thing, though.
Yeah.
But it was my experience in the music world and the journalism for music and the being a performer that helped me a lot later on with getting established with Benchlydale and beyond now. But I have a story for you that doesn't involve music. It involves the origin of Benchlydale, the word. Where does it come from? This is something that I'd like to explain to you, if you don't mind. I have about a minute's worth of explanation for you.
Dude, it's a hex crawl, man.
What are we doing?
All right.
We have
We're in
nothing
hex.
else.
We're in hex.
Please.
Benchlydale.
Okay.
Describe it to us.
Here we go. Benchlydale. It comes from two things. It comes from Peter Benchley, the author of Jaws. Benchley was taken for Benchlydale because of the dangerous nature of Jaws, my second favorite American novel, and my second favorite American film. I love the dangerous timelessness of the Jaws story and how it is really set off of the coast of Long Island with a famous shark fisherman off of the coast of Montauk. Jaws, the film, takes place off of the coast of Massachusetts near Cape Cod on a fictional island called Amity Island. It's not to be confused with Amityville on Long Island, as it is sometimes confused. Anyway, I love Jaws, and I love Peter Benchley. I've read a couple of his books. Jaws is still his best. So, Benchley. Now, where does the Dale come from? Dale comes from Monty Python's Flying Circus and a skit called The Cheese Shop, in which John Cleese walks into a cheese shop and asks for all different kinds of cheese. Michael Palin tells him, no, we don't have this. Sorry, we don't have that till the end of the week. Oh, no, sorry, the cat's in it, etc. You get the idea.
Right.
I love that skit so much. So we take Dale from Michael Palin's character in the cheese shop sketch. His character's name is Wensleydale, which is also the name of a famous British cheese. So, Mr. Wensleydale, thank you. We take Dale from your name, we tack it onto the end of Benchley, and now we have Benchlydale, a name that represents both the dangerous and the zany, silly of the sandbox. So we try not to be super high fantasy serious. We try not to be over the top silly. We are silly, but not over the top silly. And so we combine both the danger and the comedy, and there you have it. So that's the origin of the Benchlydale name for our sandbox, just in case you were wondering.
That's,
a couple of things. First of all, I want to say that I saw Jaws on the big screen for the first time last year. The big screen. I mean, I've seen it a million times. I've seen it.
How did you like it?
100 times. I brought my grandson, who at the time he would have been 15 back then. So because our summer,
He would have been able to see it then because, well, But
Well,
Jaws was not rated R. You know this, right?
Right.
Jaws was rated PG.
at the
You know
time,
this, right?
right? Because they had that was when they changed. They hadn't changed the
They hadn't changed the restrictions by that time.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
But we saw because that was the last time we saw Indiana Jones, we saw Aliens, we saw all this great movie because we have a at our local theater they show older movies, and every Wednesday they'll have like a theme, like whatever. So I had never seen Jaws in the big screen. I said I'm going to see it in the big screen because I love this movie, and I brought him. I said you're going to go see the movie. It's about a shark that eats people. You're going to love it. And he was
he
just
scared?
Like, no, he wasn't scared because kids nowadays they grow up with stuff. It's not scary to him, but he loved it. He was like just his mouth. He was like, "Whoa, yeah, oh, that's cool," So he did like the movie, and
I bet he thought it was better than Sharknado.
Oh God! And it still holds up too because you got the just three of the greatest actors of the '70s there doing
Roy
their job.
Scheider, my hero.
All three of those guys were just incredible. And then
Roy
of course,
Scheider.
if you know the lore of the movie, oh God, what's his name? The older guy.
The character or the actor?
Quint. The actor.
Oh, the actor who played Quint?
Yes.
Oh, why'd you want to blank?
I'm just veg.
Not Robert Stack. Not Robert Wagner.
No,
come
God.
on, Eric. You know this.
I don't. You know what?
my
You guys
God.
continue talking. I'll Google it.
Yes. Anyway.
Okay,
so-
Eric's
so
going to cheat. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
So I knew all the lore. So I'm sitting there telling him stuff for the movie. And for those who don't know, he was absolutely drunk the whole time they made Jaws because he was
Robert Shaw.
Robert Shaw.
Thank you.
He was drinking like crazy. He pissed off Scheider and pissed off the other guy. Who's the other third actor? The Dreyfus pissed him off because he was drunk all the time. Couldn't remember his lines. I mean, he couldn't never remember. So they had to shoot scenes over and over again. And so that whole scene where they're in the cabin at night and they're showing each other the scars and he's
I love that scene
about the pearl where we were there and we got in the water. That was pretty much ad lib because he was just so drunk and loaded all the time. And they said there's no way he's gonna be able to do this because he can't even speak his lines. And somehow he just can't. I mean, that was written out, but he still ad-libbed a whole bunch of stuff in there and it was perfect. And they were like, cut. Oh God, we can't do that scene again. There's no way he's going to be able to do it. So there's so much great lore from that movie and just so many interesting parts. I just love the movie. And of course, Spielberg, that was Spielberg's big shot. It made so much money. It created a whole, I mean, nobody was scared of sharks until Jaws came out. Then nobody would go in the water. It's true. Nobody would go in the water for years afterwards. So it's just, that's an amazing, I'm with you on that one. Benchley just basically, caught fire on that one and it was great. But yeah, my grandson liked it. He, like I said, he wasn't scared because nowadays, the kids nowadays are, whatever. But
Did
they play games. I'm sorry?
Did you read the Jaws novel, Mike?
I actually read it a long time ago. I did not like it very much, but
why?
Because I realized years later I read the Reader's Digest condensed version.
When
I read it, I didn't read it because my mom had it later on. I was like, "Oh, I'll read it." I was like, "Yeah, it's okay. It's really sketchy. It's really sketchy." And then years later, I'm like, "I read the freaking Reader's Digest condensed novel." But yeah, it's a very, very good novel. But Spielberg it's one of those cases where the director, just the stuff he chose, the way he chose to film scenes, everything is just exceptional. If you've never seen the movie, which is hard to believe, see the movie. It's a great movie. Just great. The dialogue's great. The interaction between the three main characters is great. Even some of the minor characters are great. The mayor of Amity is hilarious. He's a character actor. I can't remember the guy's name. He's absolutely great. Just everybody in the movie is just. And
the novelist Peter Benchley appears as an actor in the film.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he's a
newscaster on the beach.
I couldn't remember if he's
really?
On the beach. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So that was So it was great to see Jaws on the big screen because I agree with you.
That's awesome. I love seeing movies like that on a big screen.
It's a great novel, and you see, Jaws, but it's a great book. It really is a good book too. Just don't read the condensed version.
No, don't. You want to read the regular
version? We just digest version because
I can't believe I did that.
At the end of the Jaws film, it is both Roy Scheider's character, Chief Brody, and Richard Dreyfuss's character, Hooper, who swim safely away to shore. In the book, it is only Roy Scheider's character, Chief Brody, who swims safely to shore.
Everybody gets
right. Right. And if you read the book, you'll get to see Richard Dreyfuss's character sleep with Roy Scheider's character's wife.
Yep. That was part of where they cut out. By the way, that they cut that out of the condensed version because I didn't get that when I was a kid. Later, I'm reading. I'm like, oh, this is one of the parts they condensed. They condensed this out of the book because
this is optional. Nobody needs to read that. Reader's Digest. We don't need infidelity. Come on.
We also, by the way, I also saw Alien for the first time on the big screen last summer too. That was great.
Oh, nice!
When that came out, that was in '79. I want to say I just never got around to see it in the theater, and that held up. My wife had never seen it. I went with my wife, and she was just like, "This is a really, really good movie." I said, "I know," because I'd had. So this is totally off topic, but we hex crawl anyway. I had a talk with a guy about movie theaters because right now we're not really seeing movies in movie theaters, and everybody's streaming stuff, and we have Netflix, and we can see first run movies on our TV. And he was saying, "Oh, I think that this is the future. We're gonna be streaming movies, and we're not gonna be going to the theater anymore." I said, "I just don't see that because the movie experience in the theater is such a magical thing because." I mean, I'm not a rich man. I don't have a screen that big, and I don't have a sound system that good. And I get there, and I don't know, just everything about it, the darkness, the smell of popcorn. And then, of course, nowadays they have the wonderful reclining seats.
Oh,
yeah.
You got a waitress come up and serve you a beer. And,
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just going to watch it. And I'm just like, I just still love that experience. And so, like I said, seeing Alien on the big screen was just like such an experience because you're used to seeing these things, these little boxes. And I compare it to something that y'all understand, especially you, Tim, is that a few years ago, I played my grandson his first ever actual record album. Now remember, kids nowadays, they don't grow up, they don't know records. They hear compressed music on MP3s, which is it's shitty. It's crap. Okay, because it's compressed sound. And if you know how MP3s are made, they take out parts of the music to compress it. So the first time you hear something, so he's a big Zeppelin fan. So I played Zeppelin album 4 on a record player. It blew his mind. He's like,
gotta have vinyl, man. Vinyl is
because
great.
you hear so much more when if all you've ever heard is MP3s. Do yourself a favor and play an actual record album. And so the same thing with the movie. If you've only seen stuff on your screen, or I mean, people nowadays they watch movies on their cell phone. I'm like, you can't see it. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
So when you see something on the big screen like that, and that's the way it was meant to be seen, and that's everything is geared towards that. The director directed the movie to be seen on the big screen. The actors acted the movie to be seen. It's incredible. So yeah, Alien was a great experience on the big screen. I was just, even though I've seen it 100 times, I was absolutely blown away by the big screen experience of Alien. So yeah, that and Jaws were made my year last year. To be finally after 40 years, being able to see them on the big screen was great.
That's nice being able to go and enjoy that. About 10 years ago, I finally saw The Shining on a big screen.
Oh, yeah, the original, right? This Kubrick.
My favorite film of all time, #1. Nothing tops it. I finally got to see it on a big screen. I went to a YMCA, and they were doing a big, I guess they call it like a revival theater night. Revival house, and it was so nice to see that on the big screen. Now, I had seen the film 100 times. Going to see it, I didn't really catch anything new, but it was so incredible to be finally seeing that on a big screen. It felt like such a bucket list item for me, just like seeing Jaws on a big screen must have been for you.
Definitely. And my wife saw The Shining for the first time last year. We went to a friend's house for Halloween, and they showed like Rocky Horror Picture Show, but the last movie that they showed, and there's a party going on at the same time, they showed The Shining. And she's like, I've never seen this. I'm like, whoa, hold on. We've been married 20 years, and you're telling me you've never seen The Shining. Like, no, it's about, what's it really about? It's got Jack Nicholson. I said, okay, we're watching it. So we watched the whole thing, and she thought that was scary. And I'm looking back. I know what's going to happen. So to me, it's not that scary anymore. Or it's just
Eric.
Creepy.
Eric, ple's tell us that you've seen The Shining.
I've seen The Shining. I'm also seeing my cat crossing in front of my screen. I was like, okay.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Oh god, she's hit like numerous keys. It's like shit's popping up. I was
So
like,
but that was great because I don't know if you do the same thing, Tim or Eric, but when you've seen a movie a lot and you're with somebody who's never seen it, you're watching them the whole time. You're not even watching the movie anymore. You want to see their reactions to when certain things happen, and you want to see how they react, and you're hoping that they like it, because the worst thing is you go see like, oh, you got to see Terminator or something. They see it and like, it sucked. Like,
I know.
So I'm watching her watch The Shining, and it's just great because all these scenes that here's Johnny and all that stuff I'm waiting for, and she's like, oh, she's freaking out. And so that was just great being able to finally see it with her. And so we did a thing a couple years ago in that same vein. We had 70s sci-fi night. And we do this every Friday night for I guess we did it for a couple months, because she had never seen Planet of the Apes, Logan's Run.
Oh God.
Name another.
Ben.
Oh no, Ben's horror, man. That's not
sci-fi. Okay, sorry.
Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
What was the other one?
The Planet of the Apes.
So Logan's Run,
Battlestar Galactica, the first one.
Yeah, and then when we saw Battlestar Galactica, she thought because we've been watching the newer show, and she's like, "This is so terrible." I'm like, "Well, that's
it can't be sci-fi."
What was the one with Charlton Heston? Because Charlton Heston's like the king of all 70s sci-fi movies. Soylent Green. Yeah. So I'll go with Charlton Heston. And then what was the other one with him?
Omega
Man.
So
and
good.
And then what was the one with the Rollerball? We saw Rollerball. So every Friday night was 70s sci-fi night. And so we get through with we do this for 2 months. And at the end, she's like, people in the 70s were really cynical, weren't they? Because they're all terrible. They have horrible. I mean, Soylent Green is probably the most.
It's people
movie in terms of oh my God, this is such. Because I'm like, so which world would you like to live in? All those worlds. She's like, none of them. They're all terrible. I was like, I know. 70s was kind of a weird time. They weren't very hopeful for our world's future, because all that stuff is just every ending is just a downer, and just man, this sucks.
I got Rich to enjoy Escape from New York, man. She was like, this
cool
is
movie.
Good.
We didn't see that, but that's 80s though. We didn't see that thing. I would like to watch The Thing too, but that was 80s. So we did 70s only. So I said, I tried to make her understand why when we were kids, Charlton Heston was the most amazing human being ever, because he was in 3 of our favorite movies. He was in Omega Man. He was in Planet of the Apes. He was in Soylent Green. So we just thought, we didn't even know what 10 Commandments were. We just knew that Charlton Heston was the badass of all badass when it came to science fiction movies. So
I have a fun Planet of the Apes factoid for you. It just popped into my head. Now, I've never read the novel, the French novel from which the Planet of the Apes film is based, but I have heard that in that novel, the apes do not speak any verbal language that any human would recognize. They speak their own ape language, whereas in the film you get them speaking English, of course.
Right, sure.
Right, but you don't want the subtitles throughout the whole.
No, of course not. But it just makes me so curious and makes me almost really want to go back and find an English translation of that French novel and read it, just to see what it's like when apes are communicating with one another, and with Charlton Heston's character, Taylor, and they also interact with some of the other surviving astronauts too from that first crash, don't they? They get captured as well, right?
Yeah, that's what Peter Bowl is the guy who wrote it. I think, if I remember correctly, Boulls. I assume it's pronounced.
I think so.
I have the book and I've never read it, so it's been sitting on my shelf. So I need to pull that out at some point and flip through it and see. If it's true, because I've never actually read the original novel. So,
well, when you do, let me know what that seems like to you, because that's the most curious thing to me, after only having seen the film so many times but never touched the novel.
Pierre Boll, not Peter Boll. Pierre Boll. That's correct, David.
Pierre Boll. Pierre Boyer.
So sorry. So basically, that, Tim, what you just saw there was just this is what Glenn and I do on Eric's show all the time, because we're movie maniacs. So I'm sorry to hijack your show.
Oh yeah, when we do
20 minutes there, but when he brought up Jaws, that was it. What?
This is fun. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I love this stuff.
Oh, Jaws is great.
I love this stuff.
So I had to go. So I'm sorry. We had a few more items we were going to cover there before I got lost in
That's quite all right.
Fanboy land, Eric. Wasn't there a few couple more things we were going to talk about on the the gaming front?
On the gaming front, like I said, Wizards of the Coast did not. Oh yes, they're right. There is something that is interesting. So we mentioned the Pathfinder Humble Bundle, and this is Pathfinder 1E, because 2E is I'm not going to say 2E is a failure. I don't want people going, "Oh, 2E is not a failure." But if you look at if you look at the stats for Roll20, you look at their OR report, and it's like 5E, half the games and being played on Roll20 are 5E, and I don't know, 8% are Pathfinder 1, and 2.5% are Pathfinder 2. Pathfinder 2 is a fucking failure in those.
It's got to be killing them. Yeah, it's got to be killing them.
So here's the interesting thing. On Thanksgiving Day, which is last Thursday, Savage Worlds, means Pinnacle, Shane Hensley announced that they had the license to produce Pathfinder adventure paths, Paizo's adventure paths for the Savage World system. And I owned the first couple of adventure paths because this is back when I wasn't gaming, but I was buying. And they read really well, but I don't know if they leveled really well. Certain things like adventure paths, I don't think work well with a level system. I think they work better with a system that's more skill based because it allows your players to go in different adventure paths. By their nature, funnel you way too much, especially if you need to level. So I think by removing the leveling of traditional D&D type gaming, I think it's going to be great. And Savage World is a great system. I still don't understand how powers work in there, and I've had many a person try to explain it to me. But I've always liked the system. I think it'll be a nice little conversion when it starts coming out. Oh, and of course, it's going to be kickstarted. And Pinnacle did a great job with Savage Rift. So
I think it's a good decision because we talked for a long time that the fact that if Paizo wanted to make money, all they have to do is license all their adventure paths to and produce them in 5e, which is kind of like sleeping with the enemy. Basically, you're saying that hey, your system's better than ours. We're going to do this in 5e now. So this is a great idea for them to actually make some more money off their adventure paths, but not have to bend the knee to WotC or 5e by saying, hey, we're going to do this Savage Worlds. And there's some really good adventure paths there. We were talking about this earlier. My only I don't know, trepidation about it or whatever is just that the first adventure path they're going to do, of course, is Rise of the Rune Lords. And they've done Rise of the Rune Lords like 8 times already. And as a matter of fact, this year they just put out the 20th anniversary or 10th whatever edition of Rise of the Rune Lords for Pathfinder 2.0. So I think it's been overdone. Now I'm interested to see what they're going to do after Rise of the Rune Lords, because it just seems to me if you've already bought 6 versions of Rise of the Rune Lords, are you really going to be sucked in like, oh, I have to have the Savage Worlds one also? But it's a good adventure path. It's just that it's almost been overdone. It's like if you kept reissuing Tomb of Horrors every year. Oh wait, WotC does do that. So yes,
they've done
8 versions of Tomb of Horrors.
B1, B2. We're reissuing all Isle of Dread. Goodman Games has been doing all this.
So I guess there's money in it. So they're going to do it. But I think it's a good idea for them. They've lost a lot of market share. I mean, it's hard to believe a few years ago they were the #1 selling RPG, and now they're, like you said, Eric, they're on online they're only 8% of the, or whatever, 10%.
Whatever, they've lost market share like you wouldn't believe, and they had a great market share with 4E. Now we're all OSR gamers, or primarily OSR. It's where our focus is. I started out with AD&D. It's certainly my first love when it comes to old systems. Swords and Wizardry, it's where I hang my hat, because to me it plays like 1E without a lot of the baggage that we didn't use anyway. But we owe a lot of what the OSR is to Pathfinder and Paizo really raising the bar and allowing OSR publishers like Frog God Games to produce games and products for Pathfinder that allow them to fund putting out a Swords and Wizardry version. Maybe, putting out Rapid Ethic simply for Swords and Wizardry would not have been profitable. But having Pathfinder out there and having both versions, suddenly it becomes profitable. So it was, at the time, the rising tide that lifted all ships. Now it's 5e. And Pathfinder 2e, with a reaction to 5e, but unlike reacting to 4E, which and I know there's people going to hate me for saying this. I know there's some loyalists. 4E sucked moose balls.
Oh boy,
Okay?
he went there.
I went there, god damn it to hell, and it's not just the wine talking.
You're not so far on the plank on that one, so
No.
I don't give you a lot of credit. Come on.
All right. But 5E, there is some OSR love in the design of 5E. There's some fuck yous to the OSR and 5E too, but there are certainly some certain callbacks. You can tweak it to make more OSR. At least it's tweakable. 4E was not tweakable. You tweaked it and the system broke. Paizo, where they are now is in a large part due to 5E. Since Pathfinder was reaction to 4E, it's great to make a reaction to a game that's not selling, but to a game that's selling really well, it's hard to give a viable alternative to. And I don't think Pathfinder 2 really is that.
It was a weird situation, and it's that. I mean, look, Paizo couldn't be happier. That funded the rise of their company, but it's very understandable they don't. The temptation has to be huge for them to do 5th edition versions of their Adventure Pass, because they would sell. They'd sell like crazy. For the most part, they're very well written, and I've have a few and I've read them. The problem is I just can't. It just requires too much effort to change them, and there's already such a wealth of actual D&D material out there, especially older material, and like when you throw in Judges Guild and all the other stuff. There's so much stuff that I haven't even got to yet. Right now, I'm running Greg Gillespie's Highfell, and that's gonna give us another 2 years of gaming probably. So there's just not enough time for me to sit there and go, okay, I really want to run this adventure path, and I'm going to convert it all. But Savage World's a great solution, and that's probably the best of a couple of bad choices for them, because I guarantee you that they probably thought about we should convert our adventure path to 2.0, and then just said, no, it's just not going to be worth the time nor the effort. Because I know if we're working at Frog God, when we do a conversion of an older series of modules or an older adventures or something, we crunch all the numbers. We say, okay, is it going to be worth, republishing supplement blank in 5E? Or we're going to be able to change it up enough or make it, make it different enough that people who bought the original version are going to buy the 5E version. And sometimes we say no to stuff. Sometimes we sit there, that this just doesn't have a big enough audience to actually convert to 5E and Swords and Wizardry. And then sometimes we're like, well, yeah, we have to do Rapid Ethic. That's, we've done that for every system we've ever had. And so that, we do stuff like that. But yeah, they had to think for a second, 2.0, and then reality took a hold, and they said, no, our market show's terrible in 2.0. What else can we do? And somebody had the bright idea to do Savage Worlds, so.
Well, and for
Rapid Epic, by the way, found its way into Benchlydale and beyond, believe it or not. That's in our sandbox.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I wanted to make sure
awesome.
we needed some cool mega dungeons for it, and it seemed like a fun one to throw in there, so we went with that one, among others.
That's a good choice, and any group that picks that one's going to be playing with it for ages.
I know. I know. I've already got them playing S3, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, for ages. We started in March. It's already December. S3.
Oh,
wow.
This is how you do it. This is how you split the party and keep them split. So I've got this down to a science, brothers.
Excellent, man. Well done. Well done, Jim.
We shall keep S3 going for as long as I can until every player character, yes, every last one of them, has met their maker.
Or has a non-working laser device that has no battery.
Right, or has one of those.
Yeah, that was always like my favorite stuff from Dragon magazine. And you'd be like, oh, all right, so now we're going one step below demigods. We're going to the characters of Gary's campaigns that are just important enough to get something like a 6-shooter, but with limited bullets.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do anything all that.
That's a little mixing of the peanut butter and the chocolate going on there. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
But it's not for everybody, of course.
I still remember Gamma World was my first non D&D pickup. I think that
Mine too. I
and
wanted Traveler, but never could get anybody who played. So it was Gamma World and then Star Frontiers.
it was Gamma World for me, and I still remember spending a day scratching my head, going, "Wait a second, hit points are based upon Constitution, so I really need a high Constitution no matter what. I could be dumb as a gnat and weak as a squirrel, but so long as I have an 18 con, nothing's going to kill me." Okay.
Well, what's your end game? You trying to avoid death? You trying to cheat the Grim Reaper here, Eric?
Yes.
Well, it's not always all about hit points. Sometimes it's just about role play and having a good time.
Yeah, but not when I was younger.
Oh, okay. Well,
Let's admit that's something that evolves with play. I mean, I think that for a large part of us, power gaming was part of that initial teen years of gaming, where when your PC's off screen would suddenly get 18s and 17s and every stat. I don't know how that happened.
whoops. Yeah. How did that happen?
Well, not as much power gaming is that you just knew that, okay, I can swing a broadsword, but why would I just swing a two-handed sword? Because one does 1 to 10, this one does 2 to 7. And really, as long as the DM doesn't enforce the fact that you really shouldn't be swinging a giant two-handed sword in a 10 by 10 dungeon, I'm going to use the biggest weapon I get. If it's a halberd, I'll use a halberd, because I want the most damage I can get. It wasn't until years, then now when I'm older, now I enforce stuff like, okay, you're in a dungeon, you can't use your longbow, dude. Have you seen a longbow? You cannot.
You can't use it in a dungeon.
I'm gonna try to fire and no, you have a longbow. You don't have a crossbow. You're not firing
that's
your
why
longbow.
crossbows are very useful in dungeons and rogue standard bows are not. Yes.
This is also why torches and flasks of oil go together lovely in dungeons too.
Yeah, you're not going to light your oil with your lantern. It's not going. It's designed not to work that way.
Right. Well, that's right.
And that bastard sword that does 2d8 damage, it's only when you wield it two-handedly, not in one hand.
Right.
That's something that some people kind of go overlook. Like, oh no, but it says.
Oh well, yeah.
The joys of 1E, and I've been doing on the regular podcast. I've been going back to recently the Player's Handbook and taking another look at certain things. And I even read the back cover for the first time in, I don't know, my whole gaming career. And I was like, I still remember being told that 1E was Gary's solution to the house ruling of all of the prior edition of the box set and the basic set. That AD&D 1E was going to be the one game to cut out house ruling and to make a uniformed rule set for convention play.
Sure.
And to cut out Dave Arneson.
Well, that too. So then I'm looking at it, goes all recommended character classes. I went, all recommended. So character races, it tells you what the character races are. Character
Races, okay.
Yeah, but all recommended character classes. And I was like, oh.
That's an interesting marketing word.
Yes. So that means that just perhaps he was saying, I know you're going to bring in other classes. I understand that. And I was like, interesting. Now, somebody else commented, well, what he really meant was we're going to give you other classes in Dragon Magazine. But here's the thing with the classes in Dragon Magazine.
They're just for NPCs.
Yep.
Whatever that meant. Yeah, none of us.
Except for the Thief Acrobat and the Barbarian and the Cavalier, which were previews of what was going to come up in Unearthed Arcana.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the Bard class from issue 56. Oh my God, I'm really dating myself. Which was written to be an alternate Bard class.
Right.
And there was a Psionicus class, which I really did not care for.
You know,
anyway.
it's interesting to know that there was a demand for some sort of a Bard revision after the 1978 Player's Handbook. It seemed so convoluted to a lot of folks, and I think they wanted something a bit more streamlined in the way the Bard class would be rolled out for the players. Now, the Bard has been revised multiple times over the years. It wasn't just Dragon 56 that revised it. And I always tend to go right for the 1978 version of the Bard and not to look at any of the revisions for that class.
Right.
However, there was a set of rules, alternate rules, I should say, that came out called the AD&D Companion that compiles a lot of the old house rules from Dragon Magazine and some of Gary's writings from Legendary Adventures and Dangerous Journeys after TSR unceremoniously gave him the boot in 1985. Some of the stuff that is written for the Bard class in that Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Companion is marvelous, especially the spells. They give, finally, the Bard class Bard spells. There's this cantata, there's this sonata, there's this. It's all musically related, and it all makes wonderful sense with material spell components and verbal and somatic casting components, casting times, duration, area of effect. It's all there, finally, for the Bard class. And that's wonderful, and it's nice to see and sometimes used from time to time. But I still always just go back to the 1978 very first Bard. Maybe it's not the most perfect version of the Bard's class, but I don't need things to be perfect.
Well,
I'm about as imperfect of a person as can be.
here's the thing. I'll be honest with you. I think that the Bard class in the back of the Player's Handbook is fine if you were rolling it as a standalone class. If you didn't have to be a fighter who changed to a thief, who changed to a bard.
And that's fine. And a DM can absolutely totally do that and absolutely totally get away with it. It's fine. Because remember, that Player's Handbook is just a handbook. It's not a rule book. No, so don't make that distinction.
Well, because part of the thing is that you can only dual class, you can't triple class, but that requires triple
only
class.
If you're going to play raw, my friend. Now remember,
but that was again, that is a class put into the rule book that should be following the rules as written.
Well, now you're saying the word rule book, my friend, but it's a handbook. Help me out here, Mike.
All right. Quibble.
The DMG is a guidebook. It's not a rule book. Here we go again.
You don't need the same stats that you would normally need to change class, which is another derision. But we can argue this out. You see, this is what people want to see.
This is what Talking Crit is all about,
with arguments over game rules.
These aren't arguments. This is discussion. This is all discussion.
Discussions over game rules that are 40 years old.
My favorite thing about the 1978 Bard is,
right or wrong?
Are you ready? It is that you have to level up X amount of levels fighter, and then or thief, and then you have to level up X amount of druid levels or whatever it is, and then you can become your first level bard. Isn't that the most fun thing about that Bard class, the way it's all laid out? It's so forward thinking. Compare that up against all other character classes presented in the 1978 Player's Handbook and tell me that the Bard class, you could make an argument for Monk, but we'll say that the Bard class is the most ahead of its time character class.
The first prestige class, I guess you could say.
Absolutely.
It was what we got in third edition Pathfinder. It's like, okay. I need to plan my character out in advance. Right. I gotta. And I still remember reading an article about how to min-max the bard, and whether it was best to take the shortest number of levels as fighter and thief, or to take the maximum levels. And what was the best use of your experience points? Because remember, when you become the bard, your experience points table is back down to, I don't know, 1,500 or whatever hell it was, back down to nothing. So it's like, and you're gonna level no matter what you do. so long as your character is breathing.
Hey, I've got a question about experience points for you guys.
Okay. We
Okay.
lied, but go ahead.
My question about experience points for Eric and Mike is, in your adventures, do you have your characters auto level when they have enough XP, or are you the guy who's going to make them go find somebody to train them?
Auto level, I think training, I've always had an issue with that. I thought it was dumb when I first read it.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I'm reading that, and this is to me how forced it was. I'm like, this is not. This is forced. This is something to control players. This isn't something that helps you play the game better. This is something that you're using to basically drain money off characters. That's all it exists for. It exists to drain funds from characters, and it's so obvious and hitting you over the head with a club saying it that I was embarrassed to read it as a kid, thinking, why did Gary put this in there? This is so obviously just something to suck gold from characters. And so, no, we never did that.
We did it initially. We ran as written because that's what you did. And then we started dropping rules, and the first rules that we dropped was weapon speed because we didn't really fucking understand it. We never even attempted to use the weapon versus
weapon
AC
for armor versus AC.
Oh, we never even attempted that shit. That was gone before we even started.
I can guess what else never lasted with you guys either. The grappling rules.
Oh no, we didn't. You weren't allowed to grapple.
I still don't know how those work.
You could not use unarmed combat because that was a rule system that did not match any of the. No, you couldn't. Listen, you're either killing it or you're walking away.
Okay.
Maybe some dual damage, but no unarmed combat. What else was an issue with us back then?
Psionics.
Oh no! No, everybody wanted psionics until they got it, and then it was like.
Maybe I don't want this so much anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if I fully understand it right now. I know I don't understand it at all.
That was a little over my head at the time. I was real young.
Left us pretty early too with spell interruption. It was kind of like, okay, start counting. It's like, all right, listen, one round just lasted as 25 minutes at the table. It's a group of 3 players. Yeah. I think
that's the DM's fault. You got to move these things along.
Yeah, so certain things had to get hand waved, but we never called it house rules. Never did.
Well, that's interesting about the experience points and the leveling up. With us, we play with no auto leveling. That's outlawed. We play with something also called vanishing XP. Vanishing experience points means that the DM can take experience points away from players in vast quantities if the following situation occurs. If you get enough XP to level up one time, but you decide, fuck it, I don't feel like training, I want to go and adventure some more. Great, you can go and do that. Okay, now you've got enough XP to level up 2 times. Oh boy, now what are you going to do? Oh man, I don't know. What should I do? Well, consider this. If you decide to go and train, now that you have enough XP to level up twice, you're only going to level up once. And all other XP that you've accumulated that would have put you up a second level vanishes, gone. You get reduced to 1 XP below the second level up. So that's as high up as you're going to go. You're going to hit that ceiling with us. That's the vanishing XP mechanic. What do you think of that?
That's why I allow auto leveling, because I don't like any rules that are seem to me to be Big Daddy Gary telling me that I'm the boss and you're not. You're
nothing.
I'm the boss, and
you're the boss of you.
I don't care if you're having fun or not. That's why I don't use. I also don't use level drain either, because that's also like I'm gonna hit just for fun. Your 9th level character is gonna get hit 5 times with a vampire. You're gonna be 1st level. How do you like that? Ha ha ha!
This is why people create stables of 5 or 6 characters. And when one is ready to go train, he goes and trains, and you roll out your next one. And if someone dies, well, then you say a moment of silence, and you roll out your next one.
I'm actually okay with character death. Character death is preferable to losing levels on any. You ask any player, they'd rather just absolutely be done. Yeah. Just kill me. Just please kill me. Don't drain my levels. Oh my God, please don't drain my levels. Just kill me.
Level drain is a big deal. I know.
Let me die a heroic death as opposed to
It's not
withering away.
first level.
time.
I'm first level now. Wah wah wah.
Yeah,
That's how you deny someone Valhalla.
Yeah, it's kind of like how do you want to die? Well, I want to die at the height of my life. No, I want to die a crippled old man in a hospital bed with IVs in me. No, that's like being level drained.
No.
I got rid of level. I used to use level drain probably till 85, 86, and the reason I got rid of it, I had a specific game when a friend of mine who'd never played D&D always wanted to play. And we finally got him to play with us. And this is not a D&D type guy, just a regular guy, just wanted to play. And he started playing this halfling fighter. And he loved his character. And he just loved the game. He's like, this is such a great game. I can't believe that, I'd never played this. And I think they went to Bone Hill or somewhere. There's a wraith. And so they're in there, and all the other characters say a wraith, and they just start running because they don't want to get their levels drained. They're like, third or fourth level, and he doesn't know where everybody's running. He's like, "Well, I've got a magic sword. I'm going to attack it. Can I kill it?" I said, "A magic sword will, it'll probably hurt it." And so he attacks this wraith. I think he was like fourth level at the time. He gets hit a few times, and by the end of the fight, he's killed the wraith, but he's first level. And so we're trying to explain to him that he's lost all this experience that he's gained over the past few months. Yeah. And just the look on his face, and he was just so disappointed. Like I said, he'd never played D&D before. And he was just like, that's like the worst thing you could do to my character. Yeah. Because he knew if you died, you could just get raised from the dead. He's like, what? That is the worst thing. And I said, you know what? As of right now, we're not going to do level. And so what I do now is Constitution drain, which is somewhat the same. It's not quite the same. You lose any extra bonuses you may have from the Constitution, like hit points and stuff, right, but you can get it back through rest. And if you rest, I think it's like a month per Constitution point, but it won't take away something like experience points that you've worked so hard for, especially when you're low level. And like I said, just the look of this guy's face was just so devastating because he had this great character. He loved it. And he was like having this great time. And then after that, he's not having a good time. He's like, I'm first level again. Everybody's fourth level. Oh,
it's adversity. From adversity comes growth. We all know this.
But there's no
true. But also, I don't want to scare a player away. I don't want to have have him say, "Oh, I played D&D, but I left because my character was fifth level and now he's first." And so, and
I have a question about taking Constitution points away. Do you also take con points away when characters don't eat food? Because I do. I make sure they lose a con point every day they don't eat.
Ooh, that's a really good idea. I've never done that before. That's
temporary loss. I've done that.
That's a great idea.
But again, I'm the asshole DM that using those random weather charts that were in issue 68, 69 of my party died on the way to Hamlet. They died. They died in a tornado. They died in a fucking blizzard. I was like,
how anticlimactic! You're terrible. You're a terrible DM.
I was like, I guess I'm not using weather charts anymore because it's supposed
Did they die of hypothyroid?
They all died of hypothermia. How did your party die? We fought a red dragon. How did your party die? We fought the Lich King. How did your party die? Well, we got caught outside. We froze to death from hypothermia.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's not heroic at all.
The storm dropped 3.5 feet of snow, and I was in plate mail. Oh, geez, sucks to be you, sir.
DM says snow falls, everybody's frozen, and that's it.
You're gone.
Sorry, man. The dice hath spoken.
It's not our fault. Yeah, it's the dice's fault, man. Never the DM's fault.
Well, you got to take those. You got to shave off those con points when people don't eat. They seem to think that they can go around here and there all the time without food. Well.
My players are pretty good about it. We hand wave a lot of stuff, and as long as they have rations in their or iron rations or rations in their backpack, I usually now if they're somewhere and it's been a week, I'm going to say, okay, you're out of rations and water. What are you doing at this point? And either the cleric's going to have to create food and water. They're going to have to do something. So I don't entirely hand wave it, but there's a lot of things like that. I probably don't keep track of torches and arrows as much as I should. I mean, if they're in a battle and they fired 40 arrows, I'm going to say, how many arrows do you got in your quiver there?
I know, right?
You're running out at this point. About this time, you're running out. It's like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't fire a whole bunch of arrows. So, but for the most part.
It's fun when stuff runs out, though. That's the fun stuff for the DM.
Well, if my party flees, it's like I do the random, all right, well, let's see what you dropped as you left. And now you're not going to drop your main weapons. Maybe you fled and you had to drop your bag. Well, your bag had all your food. And I'm sorry, man. Well, you dropped your water skins because the heaviest thing you had on you.
We just had a situation where a player whose mage was fighting a Darrow. They were flying in the air. They were zapping each other with wands. the Darrow paralyzed him. He fell like 30 feet to the ground or something, and then he hits the ground, and the guy finds him. I said, you probably dropped your wand. And he's like, oh, can I roll a saving throw? I said, yeah. And he dropped his wand. But I mean, it made sense. Like, you're falling 30 feet in the air, you hit the ground, you roll a few times, but you're probably going to drop your wand.
And
he's
you know
like,
what?
"No,
If that
come
wand
on."
is made of wood, he might have to make an item save versus crushing blow against wood, right?
I didn't even think about the cavern erupted in a volcanic blast like 10 rounds later, so it didn't matter.
So then
somebody dragged him out. He said, "Wouldn't the fighter look for my wand?" He go, "He's a fighter. He's not looking for your wand. He's dragging your ass out of there before you die." And so he was mourning that last session. He's like, "I guess my wand's gone, isn't it?" I was like, "Unless you want to go back to the volcanic cavern and look for it."
At the DM, I always preferred to. It was, I'm not saying more fun, but it was better to remove something from a player that they were attached to than to remove their levels. They can always, and you think about it, it's like, well, I can always re-level, right? No, that's totally different.
It's a weird mechanism. I mean, level drain is such an odd mechanism, and because there's nothing else really like it in the game in terms of a character screw over, and a lot. I mean, look, I've talked to Rob Kuntz and Tim and all these guys before, and yes, Gary puts stuff in there just to screw players. I mean, this is just going to screw you. I mean, he would just do that, and so there's things in there that you're like, why is this like this? It's because, why is there a rust monster? Because characters had all this gear. They had tons of gear. Gary got tired of it and said, guess what? I'm going to make a monster eat your armor and your sword and whatever. That way a fighter can't just beat the hell out of it. You're going to have to think your way out of this. And I get really antsy about, not really antsy, but I am ambivalent about using, to me, monsters that are just obvious character screws, like a Rush Monster. And Rush Monsters are fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're hilarious because Rush Monster walks in, all the fighters start, they're hauling ass down the hallway. But there's a lot of things you can see in there in the game, and you say, okay, this was just put in here because Gary had a character that did X, and because X, and he did, and that's what he talked. Like I said, talk to Tim, talk to Rob, those guys. That's exactly what he did. If a character did X too much, Gary got tired of it and said, okay, I'm going to do Y back at you. So now when you do X, guess what? Y is waiting for you, and that's why monsters like trappers existed, because they wouldn't search rooms good enough. Lurkers above, because they wouldn't look on the ceiling. I mean, a lot of these monsters that seem to occupy really odd ecosystems came as a result because Gary was tired of his players doing one thing or another and not getting punished for it. So guess what? Mimics. You know what a mimic is? A mimic is, you're being really cavalier about rolling over to the chest and just bashing it open. Well, guess what? Next time you bash it open, it's going to bash you back because it's not really
love the mimic.
I do love mimics. Mimics are fun. Now mimics are fun too. But see, monsters like that to me, while they're kind of a character screw, they occupy an ecological niche, and characters should be watching out for them. That's what they should watch out for. I don't like things like there's a monster in second edition that's absolutely ridiculous. It's called the Disenchanter. And I think Ed Green went for it. And it's like this big anteater, and it just touches your magic item and it drains all the power out of there. Why the fuck would you do that to your board player characters? Just have this monster exist for no other reason than to suck out their magic items, unless you have a party that has too many magic items. So it's obvious why Ed Green created the character. He was running a party one day. He's going, God, these guys are loaded. I got to do something about this. The Disenchanter. I'll make an aardvark. It's going to look really stupid looking, so they're just going to walk up to hit it, and next thing you know, all their armor and weapons and everything is going to be sucked of magic. So I don't like to use monsters like that because like I said, I think it's you might as well I mean, a deck of many things, I'll use that because the players can choose to walk away from a deck of many things. They can say, nope, I'm out of here. But a Disenchanter, and you put it in a dungeon, you're like, okay, you're very openly saying, I'm going to get rid of your magic items here, so just buckle up.
Nobody says I'm out of here when you put a deck of many things in front of them. I mean, that's not lie to me, Mike.
How many should I draw? 3 or 4. So
because players are by their nature gamblers. I mean, I told you I ran out Rappanathic, and the campaign ended after 2.5 sessions of magical slot machines. That ended the camp. It was going great before that. They found it 2.5. It was one session, and then one player, Joe the lawyer, missed that session. So he comes in the next session and goes, "Oh shit, magical slot machines! This is cool." And then they summoned like fucking demon or two. And
Don't
next
you love the slot machines in the 1979 Dungeon Master's Guide? Isn't that a great little fun part of that book?
yeah,
I love that.
yeah. So it's just like, all right. I was like, all right, well, dude, that's like, not quite a TPK, but we're down to like, 2 survivors. It's like, so what? A new campaign next week? I'm like, I guess so.
Well, the game I ran for North Texas this year, it was so my regular campaign group. So it was a really weird setup. My regular campaign group met, and we invited 5 other players, and so they all were first level people, and they were all hirelings of the higher level characters. So they just entered the campaign, not really knowing what was going on, and they just met them in a bar. We're going to hire you. We're going to this dungeon. So they just continued their regular campaign. My brother, my friend Doug, my friend John, and then 5 more players came in. You're gonna get mad. Oh, Chris Dodge was one of them, but I can't believe I can't remember his name. But anyway, so they go through this dungeon at the end just for fun. I put a deck of mini things because deck of mini things are fun, and I have a little deck of mini thing. It was here on this. I have a little deck of mini things, and so all 3 of the regular characters said we ain't touching that. They all just backed up. So of course, all 5 of the first level guys go, we have nothing to lose. We're doing one-shot characters, and they all got really bad luck. Every card that was drawn was a bad card. And they were so bad. They drew so many bad cards that the 3 regular characters were like, there's not a lot of bad cards left in the deck anymore. We should start drawing. They were actually contemplating drawing because the Void had been drawn. Every bad card had been drawn. They're like, our risk assessment here is that the chances are we'll get something really good. It was a great way to end that session because it was a convention game, and they weren't going to play those characters anymore. So they just all. So when I wrote up the character, every session we have a Facebook page. We write session 13, session 12, whatever. So I wrote it up and just wrote up all their deaths. Dude, one guy fought a Grim Reaper death that killed him. Another guy. He turned to a lycanthrope, and he lost all his treasure, and then something else. I mean, it was insane. So it was great, but I just thought it was funny that all 3 of the veteran players, they almost kind of pushed away from the table, like,
I think
not gonna touch it.
Deck is so much fun that I think it should appear at least once a year in an adventure that either you, Eric, or you, Mike, run, no matter where it is or who it's with. Once a year at least.
Because I had a fun time with that, and I have the little decks of many things that Analog Games put out several years ago. And so I have one. I just keep around.
I wish I got one of those. I've heard about those.
I'll mail you one, Tim. Just contact me afterwards.
Nice.
I might as well throw this in there.
Thank you.
The guy who created it passed away a few weeks ago. My friend Eddie Cortrell passed away, and unfortunately, he was our age and he had an unexpected heart attack. So I miss Eddie.
Sorry to hear that.
So, yeah, but yeah, anytime you use the deck, he is the character of the wizard. And also the character of the idiot. He did that on purpose because.
Listen.
So that's his face.
That's yin and yang.
That's his face. His face on the pictures when you look at that.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, he's the face of the wizard and he's the face of the idiot. So, but yeah, I'll send you a copy, Tim. It's a great. It's the art on it, and it's kind of sad because he had the rights. He had the full rights to the analog deck. I don't know what's going to happen to it now because he's passed away, and I think the last printing of them, I want to say, was 2014 or 16. I mean, there's probably not a lot out there just floating around. So it's a great, it's a great device for just sowing chaos in games. I mean, normally that's not my bag, but man, that is the perfect example of you're going to kill yourself right here, and I am going to have my hands perfectly clean. I didn't do anything. You did this all yourself.
That's true.
Pull the card. Yeah, I got my deck around here somewhere. I think Ian McCarthy gave me a copy.
He bought like 10 from me once, and he gave them out to people.
Yeah,
because he was just
Ian's the guilty party on that one.
He likes to sell chaos.
I have my 1979 DMG handy, and I can find the page that the deck of many things is on real quick. No trouble at all. But here's my challenge to you right now, Mike and Eric.
Yes.
Do you have a deck of 52 playing cards handy?
Oh,
I do
you know
not.
what?
He probably. I bet Eric does.
No, God,
His
I
wife
actually,
plays strip poker.
I actually got a Star Wars deck in the mail today, but I don't know where it is. I'm gonna have to step away from the virtual screen and see if it's in the kitchen because I don't remember.
Do I have a?
All right. Well, just for fun, we're going to see what cards you pull from it today, right now.
Oh dear.
Uh,
Oh dear.
I could just give you a random card because I don't know how they match up to the deck of many things. I have no clue.
Okay, that'll be
Oh
plan
wait,
B.
hold on. Because I'm definitely not gonna say Ace of Spades. Never mind. I might as well just pick cards because you're right.
Ace of Spades.
Yeah,
Nobody wants to avoid.
No, I'm not pulling Ace of
Oh,
Spades.
actually, hey, look at that. Hold on a second.
All right.
Let me get this.
Got your deck of cards?
Do you have your deck? Do you have deck of many things there, or is that?
No, I have a deck of playing
card.
cards.
Okay.
Greg's like, what are you gonna do with a deck of Star Wars playing cards?
We're
I'm
gonna.
like,
It's an experiment. We're gonna see how unlucky we are.
right, let's see
Or,
if I can get
lucky, or lucky, unlucky, or lucky. We don't know.
Here we go.
All right, Eric.
No,
And you
hold
have to
on a
draw-
second.
Now you have to draw at least 3. We're gonna say everybody has to draw 3. So you have to draw 3.
Now remember, this deck though is not. It's literally. Listen to that. The wrapping is coming off.
All right, you got to
Oh.
shuffle that bad boy.
Oh yeah. You better shuffle.
And while you
So-
shuffle that, I'm just
so-
going to take a 1-minute break for myself. I'll be right back.
So
Well,
my
you see-
level
see,
18
they
paladin.
shuffle because Tim's out there and
Mike,
You
you
know,
got
one
to
of
make sure Eric shuffles those cards good.
Okay, shuffle those
oh
cards.
wow, you know what? This is a hard deck to read, man. It's got Star Wars.
Use
Listen,
excuses.
it's got Boba Fett.
Boba Fett's on the. Oh,
You know,
that's awesome.
You know, it's got
Oh,
Boba Fett on it. But man, if I was playing poker with this shit, I'd be like, yeah, it's a winning hand. Look, I've got 4 Ace of
Oh
Spades.
no, you can't read it. It's one of those hard to read ones.
Yeah. But you know,
I like the ones
Yeah.
with the really big numbers and the really big suits because yes, my eyesight's about crapped out too.
so I must say this is an interesting thing that Tim has thought up. And then after that, we will give our listening public a break because, my God, we are going to set a record on this.
Oh dear, we have set a record. So we'll do this and call it a weekend or call it a week.
Yeah.
After we do this, we'll call this week. I didn't realize
All right,
I
folks.
was having so much fun here, man. I didn't
All right.
realize we'd gone over. Okay, so here we go. Eric, you got to draw 3.
All right. Am I drawing these 3 cards for me or for you?
You're gonna draw 3 for you and 3 for me. So do
All right.
so we'll do me first. My 18th level paladin walks up there, and even though his
10?
wisdom's 18, he's still gonna draw 3 cards.
10 of hearts.
He's had a bad week. He just needs something to pick him
It's a
up.
heart. It has to be good, right? The red cards are good.
See,
10 of
Alright.
hearts? The 10 of hearts actually is not going to give you any results, so keep drawing. What you're looking for here is either a face card or an ace.
oh, okay.
Oh,
So keep
all right.
going to get a face
the 10
card.
of clubs is no good.
Oh dear.
Jack of diamonds.
Well, now we have a result. The Jack of Diamonds is the star card. You immediately gain 2 points on your major ability.
I already
Ooh.
had 18 wisdom. Now I got a 20 wisdom. I'm smart as a god. But even
There
though
you
I'm
go.
smart as a god, I still draw 2 cards, which is stupid. But I'm
All right.
I'm filled with hubris now. So I'm just like, oh,
We skipped the 9. We skipped the 2.
Wait a second, you're a paladin, aren't you?
yes.
Isn't charisma your major ability?
They're both 18. So we'll say that.
Okay, so you now have the wisdom of a god, and with the
There you
even with
go.
the wisdom of a god, you are going to
I still
unwisely
picked
pull a card.
two
Here we go.
All right. Queen of hearts, dude. Queen of hearts.
Okay, there you
Queen
go.
of Hearts. Okay, are you ready for this? You have drawn the card that is the key.
Mm.
This means you gain a treasure map plus 1 magic weapon.
Well, I already have.
Whoa.
I'm
There's
going
your
to
holy
donate that to the
avenger,
church. I'm gonna donate that to the
motherfucker.
church. I already have enough magic.
All right. 10 of diamonds. Oh, king of hearts.
Oh
The
dear.
King of Hearts. This is the throne card. You gain a charisma of 18 and you gain a small keep.
Well, my paladin came out of that pretty good. He's got a 20 wisdom. His charisma's already 18, and he's got a
Yep.
key and a treasure map. So he
All
walks off and says, "Okay, Eric, your 18th level thief now has to draw 3
All
cards.
right.
18th level thief
Jack
assassin.
of clubs. Again, I know the dark cards
Oh,
are
no.
no
Oh.
good.
You're a
Jack
thief.
of clubs? Yeah, that's not really a great one. The Jack of Clubs, what does that do for you, my friend? Well, that is the Skull card. This means that you must now defeat death or be forever
no.
destroyed.
I'd like
All
to
right,
help
I
you, but
assume-
if
oh,
I
wait,
help
wait.
you, I get a
We're
death.
gonna.
so I
I'm
can't
gonna
help.
take that Jack of Clubs and give you a Queen of Clubs.
Yeah, just
Queen.
draw real quick, and then maybe something will help you. But
Yeah,
maybe,
Queen of Clubs.
oh,
You're going to
dear.
try to draw another card real quick before Death can roll for initiative? Is that what's
Yes.
going on here?
Queen of Clubs.
I'll give you 25 experience points right now if you drop that deck, stop pulling cards, and deal with Death.
No. Queen.
I'll give
Queen
you
of-
26 experience points.
Okay, Bob Barker.
I
Okay.
dropped my left nut.
It's Monty Hall. Monty Hall
what-
does it. No, I
what-
The next
what?
card you pull is the what?
Queen of Clubs, which I know is even worse.
Queen of Clubs? Oh boy, have you just jumped out of the wok into the frying pan and then into the fire? Is this the
Into the
culinary
fire!
Triple
Oh dear.
QC, you have just pulled the Flames card. Oh well.
Oh, your soul.
There is now an enmity between you and a devil. It doesn't specify which devil.
So if you defeat the death, yeah, devil's gonna hate you too. This is great.
All right, so wait. I got one more card.
So right before the death, gonna take him down.
So there we go. That's it. Game over, motherfuckers. Game over.
Ace of Spades.
Ace of Clubs.
Oh, dear.
Oh, Ace of Clubs.
Jeez Louise.
Well, you've just pulled the idiot card. Now, you lose 1d4 points of intelligence. And it also says, it goes on to say that you may draw again.
Oh, well, then I will.
It can't hurt you at this point. Yeah,
It
you're
can't
about to
hurt at
die.
this
You're
point.
about to
Hold
die horribly. So,
Ace of Diamonds.
well, okay, something might help you there. And there you go. You may have something good happen to you.
This is quite good.
My paladin's praying for you, right, by the way.
You have pulled the Vizier card, and you know the answer to your next dilemma.
So you know how you're going to get away from a minor death attacking you and a devil hating you.
That is your next dilemma.
Yeah, that's very close to that. That dilemma is happening right now. So yes.
So I never.
So
thought
now that you know the answer, why don't you share that answer with us?
My next dilemma is eat heart healthy and watch my carbs. There.
The death goes, oh, I
that
can't do
should
that.
add 46 years to my life.
Death walks away defeated because he can't fight good heart health.
So this
That
was
gives you a wink and a smile and a wave.
Yeah, this was the hey, spend $1 extra and we'll throw some random shit in your shipment.
John Enfield says, "Might not be so bad. The devil could be hot stuff. He's not too tough."
I'm not into the devil. Monster Manual. That page was one that was dog-eared.
Ian White has the death hits first automatically. Yeah, that was actually fun, and I can't believe that's probably the best I'll ever pick in my life. And Eric was picking for me, so
you did great
You're
there,
welcome,
Mike.
I fucking suck picking for me.
My paladin will pray for your thieves' eternal soul as the devil comes after you. Actually, I'm obligated to protect you, so
there we go. See that's good.
I'll fight with you. What can I say?
Tim, what is the best way folks can find the Benchlydale Academy?
The best way to find the Benchlydale Academy is to jump on Facebook in terms of
do a search for Benchlydale.
And just do a search for Benchlydale and Beyond. We have a public Facebook page and where you can drop us a line and say, hey, I'm interested in joining the Academy. The Academy is a private page.
I just found it. It's that easy, folks. It's that quickly.
You can be invited in, but it is not a page that you'll find because it is secret. It's like a secret society, man. Ooh. But find the public Benchlydale and Beyond Facebook page and drop us a line through there, and then we can usher you in to the next pathway, which is Benchlydale Academy, which is a whole lot of fun.
Just send a message. I want to join the Academy. So
this is like one of those chicks tracks. This is how you get sucked in.
Yeah.
You watch it, and then you get invited into the private Benchlydale Academy, where they virtually sacrifice animals. Virtually. Not quite.
Well, there are no sacrifices of that nature going on here. We do sacrifice boredom on the altar of fun. That is
There you
awesome.
go. I'm going to tell you flat out, folks. I used to game with Tim face to face every other Thursday out in Long Island, and it was a fucking blast. And the group was solid as can be. Was anybody normal? I know I wasn't, but everybody was. It was a solid gaming group and really hit all cylinders. So. I thank Tim for joining us.
Thanks, Tim. We had a great time.
Man.
Thank you for having me.
But time flies when I start going,
hope
holy shit, man, is this thing recorded for 2 hours? I have no fucking
dear.
We're coming up on that. I want to thank everybody who listened live. We still have a few people left that are listening, and I do appreciate it.
Thanks for staying with us for 2 hours. We didn't know we'd go
you.
far, but we had a great time. So
yes. Tim, we will have you back at some point because I know there's more stories of your time at Jones Beach.
More stories and more stories.
And maybe Jimi Hendrix is alive somewhere. We haven't heard that story yet, so you have to tell us.
As we have stated in the past, we tell you guys this. It is a hex crawl. It is a sandbox. We did not come into this with a preordained beginning and an end. What the hell?
This is
you know what?
never railroaded.
This is called live.
I don't know how my TV said definitely on. This is good, right now. I had turned I can't blame the fucking cat. I was like, what the hell? But see, and we don't edit. So fuck you all. This is what you pay for. Oh wait, it's free. Hey. But I'm a potty mouth retired New York City cop. So I make up for the cursing that Mike does not do.
I'm a pious man.
He is a pious Texan.
Mm-hmm.
And I am one of them evil.
Let the fucks flow, man. Let the fucks flow. That's what I say.
Let the fucks flow. There you go. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. I saw the Ramones live numerous times, and I don't even remember the opening band that was playing that. I was just like, I'm afraid there's people crowd surfing. My friend I went with, Kenny, is crowd surfing. What the fuck? And my other friend is hiding in the bathroom, locked behind the stall door. So, good times. All right, folks. As always, we are in the midst of the world of COVID. Use your common sense. If you can't figure out what common sense is, talk to a medical professional. Ignore the talking heads on TV. And don't listen to any of the three of us because we're not medical professionals. But, again, common sense is your friend. Be safe, be well. God bless. Roll your dice well. God willing, I'll be back with you all tomorrow. Mike and I will be back next week, God willing, with Joe the lawyer, who was nice enough to kill his computer with a cup of coffee. I almost killed this very fucking laptop with a spilled drink, but it made a saving throw, so I've been making good saves this year. Let's keep it that I don't need to make any more. All right? Thank you, Tim. Really, this was good times had by all, yo.
Thanks, y'all.
Goodbye.
All right.